welcome to your Hello and welcome to your coaching video. Today we're going to talk about how to balance a social life alongside the goals that you want to achieve. So especially with Christmas and all the festivities coming up, this might be one that you are interested in. So just going to start off with looking at the different goals that you've got and then how you can work your social life into those. So if you've got a goal that you really want to work towards, so say it's like fat loss and you really want to lose fat, and if you went up to maintenance or if you ate a little bit more, you're not going to be happy, you're not going to be satisfied, then that's where there are going to be some changes that you need to put into to make sure you don't come out your calorie deficit and you do work towards that goal. But then there's the other side of it where if you're quite happy actually just maintaining for a month, and maybe the goals, it's like, actually, do I need to achieve this right now in the next 4 weeks, or could I actually just wait until February and I'll do that push then? So if you feel like you're in a rush for it and you really want to achieve it, then listen to the rest of this and we'll talk through some tips and stuff. But then if you feel like, actually, I'm all right maintaining, then actually keep listening because we're going to that as well. So there's kind of those two options. So there's no pressure that you have to carry on working towards your goals and make sacrifices. There is actually that option of maybe just putting things on pause, just still work on your fitness, working on non-negotiables, keep taking care of yourself, but also living your life a little bit, being okay with having a few extra calories and going, well, I'll just do the next part of my goal in January or February, whenever suits. So just going to ask you, how do you balance your...
Straight away. Wasn't ready for that. I was going to... No, it's fine. Go for it. How do I balance mine? So for me personally, it's a bit different. I'm quite happy, well, I won't be too happy, but like sort of losing a little bit if I maintain, if I gain a bit of weight, I'm not really that bothered. So I think that mindset for me is like the easiest thing. Of if I do have a bit of a big weekend, it don't really matter too much. Certainly not what the scales say, or certainly sort of like how I look, feel and things like that. So I'm quite happy from that point. But like I said, for me it is always weekends or holidays that I might not be eating the best foods or drinking the best liquids. So when I am at home, as in like from like sort of working as normal, I'll just stick to the non-negotiables in the week. So it'll be very similar to the 3 that we've set. Another one that is again personal to me is to train a minimum of 3 times a week, ideally 5. Don't drink in the week unless there's a very rare occasion like a World Cup. And sort of like just eating the best I can in the week and making sure I'm ticking the non-negotiables and not being too hard on myself if I don't tick the non-negotiables at the weekend, things like that. But for me, like that's something that's just been a part of me for years, to be honest. So I feel like everyone's going to be different on this one, and there's going to be loads of different approaches. So we'll go into the best we can.
I think it's like that law of averages as well, where it's like if your average action is adding up to a certain goal or direction, then a few little anomalies here and there aren't going to touch the sides and skew over to like where you don't want to be. Like if you're nailing those non-negotiables and your training and everything that's going to help you work towards your goals, then 1 or 2 days is not going to make a massive difference. If it's like 2 days of eating well and then 5 days of drinking and not training and stuff, then that's where it flips around and the average will actually go, you start gaining weight, losing fitness and everything. So it's just looking at what your averages are each week, which is why we do the reflection form as well, to help just actually take that 10 minutes to be like, how actually was my week? Am I actually doing the right things where I want to be and working towards that goal? I thought of something I was going to say and I can't remember what it was. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I don't know, we're probably going to have to cut this bit out of the video, aren't we?
I'll just keep it in. Just everyone just really reflect on what we've just said whilst we just have a little think.
I think, like I said, because there is the loads of different approaches. So I'll go through quickly. If you are dead set on still moving forwards towards your goal, whether it's this month or whether it's like holidays or whether you've just got things coming up, if you don't want to sort of like say go into that sort of maintenance and just stay where you are for a month or two and then get back on it, I think there is certain approaches that you can go for and still factor weekends in, or factor even just like meals out and things like that. So if we're holding that thought.
I remember what it is now.
So if that is you, if you're listening to this and you like for December, you do not want to stay where you are. You want to keep moving forward, because I appreciate some of you have put in some serious work these last few weeks. So to actually go into that maintenance, it can be a little bit like, oh no, I don't want to stop now, which is fine. There are approaches that you can do. So things like cutting calories down in the week, so that over the 7 days they still average out. So if you know you've got a couple of meals out, if you can cut your calories down by whatever it might be, everyone's going to be different. This is where you might just want to check in with one of us too and help you with this. But if you cut your calories down in the week and then save a few more for the weekend, that can still work as long as your calories are going to balance out.
I think the easiest way to do that is just not having breakfast as well, isn't it? Because
some people, that's what I'd personally go for.
Time, or like snacks and stuff. Just try and keep yourself busy so that you're having like 2 proper meals or 3.
And then when you are eating out, you can still go out, enjoy some food, possibly make better, some sort of like lower calorie choices if you wanted to. Like I said, it does depend on the person. But as long as you sort of don't feel like you can go out and enjoy yourself and things like that, as long as you're still getting out, you're still doing the social events, you can choose lower calorie drinks, which again we can help out with ideas.
Yeah, even just like help me. Even just sharing a starter and a dessert. Well, I won't be sharing a dessert, but no, like sharing things like that, so that you're still enjoying the experience, still having the foods, but you don't have to have the whole thing. So like going out with someone, sharing a starter, having a main, sharing a dessert, or anything like that, or I don't know, getting 2 mains and sharing half and half. So like if you had a pasta, you had a pizza, you'd have half a pizza, half a salad, stuff like that. Like, so that you're still enjoying the experience of it, but it's not like completely diet overload of, oh, I can't have this sauce, can't have that, I need to just have one little starter as a main. And it doesn't need to be like that. You can still enjoy the experience, still make little swaps and changes, and you all know what they are. Like, we all know how to eat less and eat better. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, and walking to the place as well. Like, a lot of the time, I know it's getting cold now, but if you're trying to drive around and find a parking space as close as you can to a venue, just think, well, if I actually just park where I know there's loads of spaces, I'll save petrol instead of driving around trying to find a space, and you can get your steps in walking somewhere, and those kind of things really do make a difference. But what I was going to say earlier and forgot as well is the thing that we've mentioned before in a previous video a few weeks ago, but overeating doesn't always lead to fat gain. So you could eat 3,000 calories in a day. That doesn't mean that it does mean you've overeaten, but it doesn't mean that you're going to suddenly gain loads of fat. Like, our body will manage that in different ways, and because you all train so regularly as well, it's stored differently and is more readily used because you've got training adaptation. So your muscles can use the storage much quicker than if you were a sedentary person that doesn't do any training. Then it's harder to break down the fat stores. So when you overeat, it's not like suddenly you've got loads of fat on you. You might feel heavier, it might be heavier, but doesn't mean that it's all fat and that it's going to take ages to lose it all. Our bodies are very clever and they don't do that. It's only, like we were saying before, the averages. So if you keep doing it on an average, like 5 days a week, every day, every month, every week, every month, then that's when it will actually start making a difference. But yeah. So then, if you wanted to maintain?
Yeah. I think maintaining is very similar. It's got its similarities. So again, everyone's going to have different amounts of calories. So this is where everyone will be different again. But if you're not sort of focusing just on numbers and calories, just simply sort of making sure you are sticking to the non-negotiables as often as possible. Especially when sort of like the days that you are in full control. Say if like obviously December comes and the dues start picking up a little bit, there might be 2 or 3 in a week. If you're out 2 nights in that week, you've got 5 days where you're in full control of everything that you can eat and drink and stuff like that. So that's where you can just sort of make sure you're still nailing them non-negotiables, make sure you're still training, make sure you're still moving, and then when it actually comes to it, them social events are probably going to bump your calories up to maintenance. if you tipple over a little bit, then so be it. If you put a couple of pounds on, so be it. Like, we're in it for the long term. It is, yes, the challenge is going to finish mid-December, but them goals and them whys that we set at the start of the session of the challenge, whys are for, sorry, I'm waffling here. Then whys are for the long term. So we're thinking like 12 months time. So realistically, if you go backwards a little bit, if you put a couple of pounds on, if you miss a few sessions, like, don't beat yourself up. It's December, shit happens. Get back on it, and you're going to see some progress over the next 12 months.
I think as well, when you do overeat a little bit, like at maintenance or above, you might actually find that training is so much better, because instead of being a calorie deficit and not eating, you'll actually come in, you'll have loads of energy, you might be able to lift a little bit heavier, you might be able to push a little bit harder on like the air bike or whatever, like you'll be able to train at a higher intensity. You might even find that your sleep improves as well if you're eating a little bit more. So eating more is not always a bad thing, it's actually good sometimes, because you'll have more energy, you'll be able to do more, have better sleep, and it's not such a bad thing. Especially if you have just been dieting and in a calorie deficit for the last 8 weeks, it's probably quite a sensible idea to come to maintenance for a little while. So there's two ways of looking at it, and that's why it's like it's not such a bad idea to maintain now. It doesn't mean that you failed and not worked towards your goals, it's just part of it, and then in January, February, you go back to the deficit. And that's why I like to think of ourselves as like athletes as well, because like athletes, they don't, when they're training for a sport, they're not like all in until their event. They have tapers, they have rest and deloads and eating more, eating less. Like there's all those like 4 to 8 or 12 week cycles. So just see yourself as an athlete and go, well, it's my deload and overeating week. Or like you're training harder and eating more week. So see it that way as well.
You're definitely training harder, because the programming does factor in that everyone's going to be well fueled and ready to push a little bit more. So that is factored in for December's training. I think that was pretty much it. Obviously, we didn't have any questions this week because of the check-ins, so we will get back to a few of you on them.
I think the moral of the story is don't be hard on yourself. It's only 4 weeks. You've all worked really hard, and this is a lifestyle change. So this is just our lifestyle. Christmas is part of our lives. Enjoy it, and just know that it's not going to ruin everything. You've nailed your non-negotiables. You've got those habits. They're part of who you are and what you do now. As soon as the partying stops, you just carry on. And it's not like you're out every day. Well, if you are, wow. It's not like it is every night, every day. So it's those days in between that just stick to what you do and what you're already doing, and you'll be fine. You'll smash it.
You will.
Yeah. So I'll end that one there. And we'll catch up with you next week.